Moses Shyne Barrow is moving forward with his case against Tracy Panton and former UDP Secretary General Philippa Griffith Bailey in the High Court of Belize. Despite losing the election on March 11th and stepping down as leader of the UDP, Barrow is asking the court to decide if the Unity Convention on October 20th, 2024, led by Panton, violated the party's constitution. The court is also being asked to rule on the validity of Panton's expulsion and that of several other members. Barrow was present at today's proceedings, represented by Dr. Christopher Malcolm.
I heard the learned Justice Hondora repeatedly question the defendants as to their contradictory positions, which is that the rules were not followed in regards to the expulsion, dismissal of Tracy Panton. Yet, when it comes to the rules and the compliances necessary for the October 20th event that they held, they're saying that they didn't have to follow the rules. Once their rights were being infringed upon, then they could take it upon themselves to do whatever.
The courtroom was packed, mostly with supporters of Panton and her party executive. Representing Barrow, Malcolm argued that the October 20th convention was held without proper authorization. He also pointed out that there's no evidence showing that the delegates who voted at the convention were eligible to do so.
For those of us that would want to be Prime Minister of this country one day, or to sit in cabinet, or even to sit in the National Assembly, we have to demonstrate to the public that we adhere to the rule of law and that we will be compliant with whatever oath of office it is that we take.
On the other hand, King's Counsel Peter Knox contended that the UDP delegates have a right to vote and that such right cannot be taken from them. He argued that even though some members of the party executive distanced themselves from the convention, they still had a duty to uphold the delegates' right to vote.
On the expulsion point, we say the Constitution is clear. That was our argument. There's no room for any doubt as to what it meant at all. On the point about whether Mrs. Panton was entitled to call the convention, our point is simply the Constitution doesn't say one way or the other whether she could or couldn't. And therefore she could.
They're arguing that roles and functions were usurped and that there was a breach of a contract in this case.
Well, they are saying that. We say there was no breach. The reason we did that was because they were in breach. They didn't do what they were supposed to be doing, so of course Mrs. Panton was entitled to give effect to the delegates' rights the way she did.
In one of his arguments, Dr. Malcolm pointed out that Panton did not involve the Secretary General in organizing the Unity Convention. The Secretary General is responsible for validating the list of eligible delegates before a convention. Knox, however, countered this argument.
We had all the information anyway. So we had whatever, in practical terms, we had all the information she would have had, so we were able to communicate with all the people she would have communicated with. Of course, if that hadn't been the case, then the fact we didn't go through the Secretary General might be important. But we say, so what? We had all the information she had, and so we sent out all the relevant information and minutes and agenda and so forth that she would have done. So why does it matter that she didn't do it?
Justice Tawanda Hondora has decided to reserve his ruling for a later date. But with Barrow stepping down as party leader and Panton being endorsed as the new leader, is this just an academic exercise to determine who was right and who was wrong? Barrow argues that there is real damage involved as Panton's leadership challenge led to him and many of his colleagues losing their seats.
When the campaign was initiated against me, the key words were structure, rules, constitution. We have to follow the rules. Dictatorship. One person or a few people, the party chairman and the party leader, can't just do what they want. So we need to see that all the way through for the benefit of the institution of the UDP.
Attorney Knox says otherwise.
In one sense, they are a little bit moot because, as I understand it, Mrs. Panton is the leader of the opposition. In practical terms, I imagine, she would say that she is, to all intents and purposes, the leader of the UDP. So what's the point of this litigation? One of the questions is, or rather was, who is the leader of the UDP? There was an issue about that until the general election, but in real life there's now no issue about that particular point at all.
Reporting for News 5, I am Paul Lopez.